Is your AI strategy stuck in the chatbot era based on LLM-only architectures? Because if you're still only asking whether your AI can talk and converse, you may already be behind. Today, roughly 60% of enterprises are moving beyond conversational AI towards a far more consequential frontier: production-grade digital labor for knowledge work powered by advanced agentic AI architectures. Hello, and welcome back to the next frontiers of AI, where we explore real-world innovations that are shaping the future of enterprise AI. I'm your host, Scott Hebner, Principal Analyst for AI at theCUBE Research. Thanks again for joining us. The next generation of AI isn't about generating answers, analyzing information, or even automating repeatable tasks. It's about deploying accountable digital workers that can know, that can reason, remember, and contextualize, and continuously optimize for measurable business outcomes. In other words, the question is no longer, can AI talk? It's now, can AI think, act, and deliver ROI? The future is empowering knowledge workers to deliver defensible problem solving and decision making. And that shift changes everything architecturally, because large language models alone are not enough. The market signals are so clear. The future of enterprise AI architectures is shifting from answer generation into accountable, economically disciplined digital labor. Today, we're going to unpack exactly what that next generation architecture looks like. Joining me is Roland Boulos, the Vice President of Solution Consulting and Go-to-Market Strategy at UnifyApps. Roland is helping organizations rethink AI, not as a chatbot interface, but as a new operational intelligence layer. So I'm thrilled to have Roland joining us here. How are you today?
Hey, Scott. Great. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So where are you? Are you in Dubai?
I am actually based out of Dubai, yes.
All right. So it's late in the day there. I really appreciate you taking time and joining us today. So let's jump into it here. Let me just start with, why don't you start with a little bit of background on your journey to where you are now at UnifyApps and what you all do to help clients be more successful in the world of enterprise AI.
Yeah, Scott, I think I was very fortunate throughout my career, over the last 20 years to always be part of every major technology shift that happened really in the last 20 years. So early days, it was all about helping enterprises designing and building solutions to take their services online, right? When the internet came up and it became a thing for enterprises. Then mobile apps, how can we build these mobile apps and move our services there? There I got exposed to a lot of low-code app development and bringing more agility to be able to really deliver faster. Then a bit worked with cloud, and then a few years focused on customer experience technology, right? Whether it's optimizing customer service or personalizing marketing. And I think for the last 2-3 years, it was everything about generative AI, agentic AI to be specific at UnifyApps. And I believe this current shift is really going to be the biggest transformation compared to the ones that came before.
Yeah, I agree with that. Having been through, the centralized computing to client server, and then client server to the world of e-business and the internet, and then into mobile and cloud and IoT, and now we're on to AI. And I agree with you. This is seriously transformational. I think people are just now getting sort of the entry-level notion of how powerful this stuff can be with just using things like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever. And it's going to get really interesting in the years ahead, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're just getting started, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, you kind of look at enterprises today, and our survey work definitely shows this. It seems like many are still stuck in the chatbot era, while others are already building scalable, digital workforces, if you will, using agentic AI. Do you think there's a market divide in play here?
I think it's not really divide. It's more of a natural evolution, right? Well, it's quite normal when a new technology comes in. It gets widely adopted by consumers, right? Like we saw with ChatGPT in the early days, and now more tools. So for enterprises, the first reaction was, okay, let's stand up a ChatGPT wrapper, give it a document or a knowledge base, and let's put it on a widget on the website and let it answer some questions for us, right? And this was kind of the early way of enterprises trying to do AI, right? But I think now we're really moving from these simple FAQ type of chatbots to more AI assistance and to more AI execution, right? So it's now about building AI agents that reason, that do actual work, right? AKA digital workers. So it involves a lot of reimagining business processes, having teams or swarms of AI agents doing the actual work, right? And not just simple chatbots. So it's not straightforward, right? Because beyond just the technology aspect of it, there is a mindset shift required, right? And a change even of human work, right? Like every transformation, it's going to be about people, process, and technology. And I think especially the role of humans and employees is really changing. In the last 30 years, most of our employees were admins, right? We built all of these software and they were administering these systems. Now our role as employees is going to move more towards, we're going to have these AI agents, these digital workers doing the work on our behalf. And our job is going to be monitoring those, giving feedback, approving, right? So really we're going to become more governors than admins, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I love the UnifyApps message and what you've been out talking about, because, in simple terms, you've been saying that that it's no longer about, as you just said, the conversations and the FAQs and, agents that can simply talk. It's now going to be about agents that know things and they can remember and they can contextualize the situation, and therefore they can actually act with a degree of defensible, actions to it, right? And so in your mind and what you guys are seeing with your clients, what defines a trusted AI agent or a trusted digital worker, if you will? And why is that fundamentally so different than what we've all been experiencing with these chatbots?
Yeah, that's a great question, Scott. And I love the use the word, you added the word trusted to it, right? Because that's probably the biggest theme we're seeing now with customers, right? I think these AI agents or digital workers, right, in our definition, they need to have three key contexts, if we say, right? The first is the data and knowledge context. So we need agents that are grounded in our actual enterprise knowledge, right? Because these agents are going to use the LLMs. The LLMs are trained on the public internet, on synthetic data, right? And recently, we need them to understand how to reason within our data, our knowledge, and how all of these, are interconnected together, right?
Right.
Plus, they need to have memory, as you mentioned. They need to remember not just within one session, but across sessions and across processes, right? And here you will have different types of memory. You can have factual memory to gain new knowledge as you're doing the job. You're going to have episodical memory to remember specific events that happen. And you're going to have procedural memory, which is to learn new skills and understand new rules, basically, right? So that's really the first, I would say, data and knowledge context, if we were to call it. The second is the governance context, which is really that trust aspect, where digital workers are really AI agents that understand my policies for my organization and abide by them, that have guardrails. They need to honor my organizational hierarchy and access controls. And I need to have transparency on the work they're doing, right? So that's really would fall under one governance umbrella, I would say. And then third and finally, the actionability context, right? For these agents, they're doing work, so they're going to need to take actions in my SAP and my Salesforce and ServiceNow and sending emails, right? In my different work tools and systems. They need to do it safely with audit logs, with rollback and retry mechanisms, right? So it's not a simple API call, but really more robust for an enterprise. So without these three contexts, as a minimum, right, we won't be able really to achieve meaningful accuracy. We'll have hallucinations. We can't have agents that take actions and complete end-to-end work, right? So we're going to still be stuck in the chatbot era versus really having these digital workers. So that's really what I would say differentiates the both, and that's what's needed really to build and achieve these digital workers, basically.
Yeah, that's really well articulated and framed. I can tell you one of the great things about my job now is I get to talk to enterprises and solution providers like you guys, like all the time. And if I was, just teeing back on your comment about trust, if there was one word that I would define the state of enterprise AI right now, it would be that word, trust, right? It's sort of becoming the currency of innovation, the currency of ROI. The trust equation needs to be solved before I think enterprises are going to be able to do more and ramp ROI and really make transformational change. So I found it interesting that you said that that same thing, right? So, and it's just, everyone has that viewpoint. The key is now going to be, how do we actually do that? But, you have said in, great detail, actually, that the point of view that the LLMs are the probabilistic brain, right? They're the foundation, but they're not the entire enterprise solution. And you've been a big proponent of knowledge and contextual graphs and, how they become the factual substrate or a single source of the truth, if you will, that transform these probabilistic models like an LLM into trusted deterministic systems. So can you just give us a little bit of background on your point of view there of what this looks like, what needs to happen so that these LLMs become more grounded in real context and real knowledge?
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. I think we always try to think of when we want to onboard a digital worker or an AI agent the same way as onboarding an employee, right? And I want to bring up here a nice analogy we always try to use, comparing human cognition and enterprise cognition, right? Mm-hmm. So the LLM is the brain, right? So in the humans, we have our brain. In the enterprise AI agent side, we have the LLMs, right? That's primarily used for reasoning, right? In both. Now, that is not enough, right? If we look at the way we do anything in life, right? If I want to achieve something or do a specific objective, first I'm going to use my senses, right? In the enterprise AI agents, that's your connections. I need to listen to what is going on in other systems, right? I need to touch these systems. I need to see, right, the bigger picture across my data and systems. So really connections are the senses. The synthesized memory we spoke about a bit is what, in a human cognition, we're not born, we don't know how to walk or talk, right? We're born with a brain and we can reason, but we acquire that knowledge throughout the years, right? We acquire thousands of skills. The same thing with AI agents. They need to learn the knowledge that exists and in an enterprise, and that's really the whole context, which is the combination of data, knowledge, and memory really together. The actions really, human will take actions, AI agents will take actions in different systems, update the CRM, send an email, etc. And then probably the most important part, and back to the trust, is the conscious we have as humans that tells us the right from the wrong and what should we and shouldn't we do. In AI agents, that's really the governance, right? That's really the boundaries, the guardrails, my policies as an enterprise that I'm telling my agents you shouldn't kind of bypass or go beyond, right? So really, this is how we approach it, and this hopefully clarifies that LLMs alone, having a brain alone will not be enough to build these digital workers in an enterprise that will, do end-to-end work, basically.
Yeah, what I love about that chart and the way you frame it is it's that's in many ways is the definition of agency, right? Right? It's, and I think there's a lot of people that are building agents today that are really just LLMs, right? With maybe some communication and stuff like that. And that's not really what Agentic AI is meant to be, right? And that's why it's something different than when we were talking about AI assistants like the LLMs and things of that nature. So I really like that chart because it frames it very, very well. And we'll get into a little bit about what UnifyApps is doing, what you're doing to bring that to life here in a second. But let me, before we do that, let me just show you some of the data that we got from our Agentic AI Futures Index, which is a survey of 625 AI leaders in the enterprise. And as you can see here, there is definitely a shift. And the question is basically, what do you envision your AI agents and your workflows being able to do over the next 18 months? And you can see 6 in 10 roughly are moving beyond what a chatbot can do, right? Diagnose and solve problems, improve decision making, as you said, in defensible ways, right? Guide action planning, and even act on behalf of the workers. That's taken it to a whole new level. And without going into all the details of the survey, it does get you into things like, how are you going to do that? Well, guess what? Knowledge graphs. I think it was like 44% or something like that. Plan on investing in that type of technology over the next 18 months, which has got to be at least more than double what it was last year. So I think there's a clear trend towards the aspiration and desire to do this, because that's where the value is going to become. Now the trick is, how do you execute against that? And that circles right back to your execution architecture that you mentioned, right?
Yes. Absolutely. So, and I think this is, like we said, it's part of the evolution, right? It started some more basic experimentation. Now, I think a lot of enterprises are realizing the importance of these knowledge and context graphs to really achieve the true potential of this technology, of these LLMs in an enterprise.
Yeah, it's sort of like the old days. You mentioned all the transformations. Remember the internet age, right? Where the browser wars, right? If whatever browser you selected was going to determine the future of your business, and it turned out over time, the browser became a preference and became a foundation or a gateway into the world of the internet. But it's how you build an architecture around it that really defined the difference in the world of e-business. And I think you got the same thing going on here with the LLMs, where over time it's going to become a preference, right? They're all going to be really good. It's going to be how you build that architecture around it. And that sort of leads me to getting your perspective on, as enterprise think about production grade agency, as you defined on the previous chart that you provided us. What are these non-negotiable architectural layers beyond the model itself, beyond the LLM? What's the real plumbing required to scale from assistance into agency and digital labor? And you mentioned the knowledge graph and context, but what are some of the other elements of that architecture?
I think we believe, Scott, that enterprises need to have what we call an AI operating system architecture, right? And here's what does that mean? If you look at, on your device or laptop, similar to the way an operating system is there, it's working to orchestrate the different hardware components and the different applications, allowing them to run smoothly, right? So in an enterprise, you need a horizontal platform that is sitting on top of your infrastructure or cloud of choice that already exists, right? Mm-hmm. The new entry here is the large language models. So we need these models to be orchestrated and using different ones, as we were just describing. So having this platform sitting on top of the LLMs, the infrastructure, and allowing you to first connect to your different systems, storage solutions, data lake houses, right? So connectivity integration is going to be crucial, right? For both getting the data moving, getting it in so that we can start to build our knowledge graph and context graph, but also to take action as well, right? So connecting to the system, unifying the data, both structured and unstructured, so building our graphs. But it's also beyond simply knowing the relationships between my different entities and how it all relates, but really, so in a lot of cases, it's indexing that data, masking sensitive data, it's enriching the metadata itself to make it more meaningful for AI, right? So that's kind of number 2. And 3, then we can actually start to build AI agents and apps, right? And automate workflows at the heart of that architecture, right? So this is kind of what we're calling that operating system architecture, which will make governance, observability much easier, and hence allowing you to scale AI, right? Because the future is going to be dozens and hundreds of these digital workers in an enterprise. So
Right.
it's all about scale, and having the agility to be able to do it and quickly adapt and change without really having every time to reinvent that foundation is going to be crucial.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's a build out over time. From our survey work and from our engagements, we built out a point of view here. Let me just want to get your take on it. Bring it up here, and been sort of framing this as decision intelligence, right, as a driver. But I think it's also AI trust. It's a lot of the things that you talked about around agency in general. But it's a high level graphic, but you have the foundation layer being the LLMs, that includes chain of thought and RAG. But you need that knowledge graph, if you will, that sits on top of it. That knowledge graph then needs to be contextualized into a certain situation that decisions are going to be made. I think there's going to be an evolution over time to infusing, causal discovery, causal inference, if you will, so that it can reason around cause and effect and root cause, and let you do what if this and counterfactual reasoning and all that kind of stuff. And then that gets you into the layer where you make decisions and take actions. And up and down that stack, as you pointed out, you need the governance, right? And so I'm just curious to my take, if you will, on where I think this is building out over the years ahead, right? It's not going to be overnight, but is that a general, reasonably architecture or view of where it kind of has to head without getting into the gory details?
Yeah, I think absolutely. This is really going to be core pillars of that operating system architecture, right? That's going to be on top of your large language models. And like you said, if the more I do this well and I'm able to observe and govern this, the easier it's going to be for me. The actual build of the agents and scaling them is going to become much easier. When I do all of this as a foundational platform versus every single time I want to build an AI agent, I have to kind of build every piece of this.
Right.
That's going to be super, super important.
Yeah, they're piecing everything together from a whole bunch of piece parts and open source this, and not an architecture, incarnated in a actual platform. I'm with you on that. So in your engagements with your clients and prospects and companies in general, where do you think today most enterprise initiatives are actually failing? I mean, is it in the broken data that happens? Is it missing context, weak integration, the inability to tie the intelligence to economic discipline? I mean, there's a lot of factors here, but I kind of think of it as simple as data is not knowledge, right? A prediction is not a judgment, and to make a judgment, you need context, right? And those are some of the missing elements. What is your point of view on all that? What's actually failing?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely a combination of all of those, Scott. I think the main challenge is most enterprises, over the years have accumulated dozens and hundreds of systems, right? Each which is with its own user interface, own data model, its own workflow logic, right? So that is what worked for the digital era. Now approaching it with the same coding first, coding every AI agent and app at a time is not going to work. It will take longer. It will require a big, highly skilled expensive engineering team to do it, right? So I think that's why a lot of these AI initiatives are working as experiments and pilots. But then when we want to put it in production and scale it, first, we don't trust it. We're having challenges getting it to see the whole context or the whole picture, right? And that drives a lot of these failures today. And it really needs to be strategically approached through having that right foundation platform, right? That unifies these contexts, that allows you to move from a coding first approach to an assembly first type of delivery of these next generation of AI solutions, right? I think the means that worked for us in the digital era would not be the best ones for this AI era, right? So it's really about changing a bit the approach and really focusing on setting up that foundation and building an AI factory that will allow me to continuously, deliver and evolve these AI solutions without worrying which LLM version is going to be here today, which is going to be the one that changes next year, and what are the new models that would come up, because I'm able to really orchestrate and move a model and plug in a different model.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, could you give us a real world example of where you see the knowledge, the memory, the contextual, situational sort of space, the execution architecture, all that coming together to deliver ROI beyond just the experimentation that's been going on?
Yeah, I think I mean, we've been working with a lot of customers, hundreds of use cases. I think the one that I always love is a solution we have built with a couple of manufacturing and consumer goods customers. We're calling it the supply chain command center, right? But basically, the idea of it is having a team of AI agents that I'm not chatting with them. They're basically working in the background. The first agent is a demand sensing agent. So it's looking at my POS data, at the weather, at news, and kind of identifying demand shifts or anomalies or abnormal patterns in real time, and then giving me a signal, right? That signal is going to another agent, a contract risk agent, who says, okay, we have a demand shift. We're in risk of breaching these contracts. We're not going to be able to fulfill them. And there's penalty clauses there, right? And then that is going to a third agent, which is more of a inventory and logistics agent, who's going to look at how can I rebalance that, the inventory. Where can I move inventory from which warehouse to satisfy that high demand? And it's going to recommend, let's move these products from California to Texas to make sure we don't breach our contracts, right? And they're kind of all working together to, at the end, recommend a solution, which the human is still there. He's kind of observing, and he can approve that, right? That action to move the actual, to execute the order. You can say, I want to automate the whole thing and let the agents actually fulfill the orders, right? So this is it's involving a lot of systems, a lot of data. Each agent needs to see what is important for his job and his tasks and understand it. They need to also have the memory to learn from every signal that comes up, or sometimes multiple signals are coming up at the same time. So it's really using all of these concepts we've been talking about to achieve a use case that's driving, for a manufacturing company. This is supply chain is their core business process, right?
Right.
It's driving a lot of efficiencies naturally, because everything before was done manually and we're looking at dashboards. Now it's all proactive and agents are giving us signals, but also massive, prevention of revenue loss, right? When we are avoiding breaching contracts and penalty clauses and others, right? So this is one of my favorite use cases, but there's a lot of similar ones we can use in different industries across different departments and verticals, for sure.
Yeah, one of the things I really love about you guys, UnifyApps, is you're not just talking about the knowledge graphs, but you have a big focus, as you've said many times during this whole conversation, about the context, right? And so I just want to get your take on what we've been building out here as sort of a point of view of where this may all be heading here. Little detailed, but just your high level perspective on this. It's sort of the idea that you take the knowledge graphs, right, entity relationships, metadata, and you got to create these contextual spaces. And there's those contextual spaces that decisions and reasoning happen, right? Because everything has a context, whether it be a geography that you're in, whether it be a state of the economy, whether it be a policy or a regulation. So the idea here is that there perhaps may need to be either a new layer or at least part of the agency pipeline where you build out the ability to frame that knowledge in what really matters, right? So project out of the knowledge graph, what is the relevant entities and the semantic coherence and how it all comes together. You need to have that situational awareness to understand what's happening now. So the retrieval, the operational state, like you said, the ability to understand the events and the signals that are happening right now. Mm-hmm. And then you have a working scope, right? You're acting with the guardrails and the trust and the governance. So the memory orchestration and the context protocols that MCP and other things provide, making sure you have identity and policy and scope. What's your view on this graphic? I mean, you think this is something that over the next many years, these kind of capabilities are going to be needed?
Yeah, I think that definitely, Scott, the pillar 1 and 2, right? The knowledge graph and the context spaces are more and more converging, right? Are more and more needed for these complex use cases. And again, we're not talking about if I want to build a simple AI chatbot to answer questions. If I want to really do like the use case we just spoke about, these are really becoming more and more important. And I think the third part, right, the governance is like the number one discussion we're having now with customers is all about governance. They've already built some agents. They have them in production. Now they're realizing like, okay, the next 10 I'm going to build, how can I be able to manage all of that, right? Monitor it, have the deep observability. So that governance, and also the reality is not all these agents will sit in one platform. Now we're talking about agent to agent. How can I orchestrate agents that are sitting here, external agents that are being built by third parties, and really have that orchestration, the governance, etc. So this is definitely on spot, and we're seeing that very commonly with a lot of our customers today.
Great. Yeah, it's going to get really fascinating in the years ahead if it hasn't already been over the last several years. But before we wrap here, just for our audience, just get some of your advice here, right? So what would be the first architectural or sort of operational shift that enterprises should make so they're not getting trapped in this chatbot era? And also, how can they get involved with you guys at UnifyApps and to help solve some of these problems?
Yeah, I think it's really summarizing what we discussed today, Scott. It's we need to first acknowledge that this is a strategic AI transformation. It's not just another IT project, right? It is a massive opportunity for organizations to gain competitive advantage and drive strategic value, right? In the digital era, digital native companies that surface there are the biggest companies today, right? And a lot of companies disappeared because they weren't able to keep up. The same thing is going to happen now at a more accelerated pace, probably, right? So the reality is, in the near future, organizations will have dozens and hundreds of these digital workers and AI agents, right? So at UnifyApps, we built that platform that helps set that foundation to address the 3 key challenges for scaling AI, right? The data and knowledge context and memory, the actionability context, and the governance, right? And that on that same platform, you're able to build agents and apps and workflows in a very easy visual development type of assembly-first environment, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just the build of these solutions, but also the managing the full life cycle, right? So I think my advice to everyone listening is really take this very strategically, this whole AI transformation. You need to set that foundation, that platform, so you can establish that AI factory, right, for continuous delivery of solutions. And that will help you naturally focus on driving value and outcomes with AI versus an engineering exercise. This shouldn't be an engineering exercise of how can I get all of these technologies to work together. It needs to be value-driven. There's a lot of tokens, and token consumption is on top of mind for everyone now. Mm-hmm. So unless I'm able to justify every AI agent, every use case I'm building, there is an ROI and value behind it. I'm going to build it, I'm going to drop it after because I'm just paying tokens, right? So that's really, I would say, what I would advise, and that's what we've seen really with our customers, for everyone who is really looking to benefit from generative AI and LLMs overall.
All right, great, Roland. This has been really fantastic conversation. We got to leave it here. And for everyone that wants to learn more, go to UnifyApps.com. I think it would be really interesting to go explore what they have to offer here. And again, thanks so much, Roland, for taking the time to be here.
Thank you, Scott. My pleasure. And thank you for having me.
You bet. And for our listeners, I think the message is quite clear today that the future of enterprise AI will not be defined by who builds the best chatbots. It's going to be who builds the most accountable, context-aware, as Roland just pointed out, economically disciplined digital workers. The next frontier will be about AI that knows, remembers, acts, and reasons around a specific set of contexts that are important to the business. So in the end, digital labor will not be about these chatbots that can talk. It'll be about those that can think and do. So everyone, thanks very much for listening in. Really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes of Next Frontier of AI. I'm Scott Hebner. Take care, and next time, we'll see you real soon. Bye, everybody.